Thank you all for being here. I appreciate your time, and I'm going to do my best to be as accurate as possible. And we'll just move on forward. As AJ was saying, I own and operate Empowered Home Inspections. I am a certified master inspector. I am the president of the Front Range chapter here in Colorado. I'm an InterNACHI mentor, and my information here is if you ever want to reach out, you can call me or email me at inspectorjulie@gmail.com. Apologize for my voice. It's a little rough. It's been so dry. I'll do my best to sound very clear. Okay, according to these standards of practice, a home inspection is a non-invasive visual examination of the accessible areas of a residential property as delineated below, performed for a fee, which is designed to identify defects within specific systems and components, defined by these standards that are both observed and deemed material by the inspector. The scope of work may be modified by the client and inspector prior to the inspection process. The home inspection is based on the observations made on the date of the inspection and not predictions of future conditions. The home inspection will not reveal every issue that exists or ever could exist, but only those material defects observed on the date of the inspection. A material defect is a specific issue with the system or component of a residential property that may have a significant adverse impact on the value of the property or that poses an unreasonable risk to people. The fact that a system or component is near, at, or beyond the end of its normal useful life is not in itself a material defect. A home inspection report shall identify in writing format defects within specific systems and components defined by these standards that are both observed and deemed material by the inspector. Inspection reports may include additional comments and recommendations. Okay, as we're getting started, I'm going to encourage you guys to download the standards of practice. We're going to go through, because we do have a little limited time here, I'm basically going to go through the standards of practice according to what we shall be doing and what we shall describe. We're not going to go into detail about the things we don't have to check or do or say. That's something I encourage you to get these standards of practice. Like I said, download it, and I would print it out. And I would highlight everywhere it says the inspector shall describe. Make sure that's getting in your reports, regardless of what type of platform you're using for your reports, or program rather. Just make sure that you are documenting the things that you're supposed to be documenting according to the standards of practice. Another thing is a lot of inspectors will go outside of that standards of practice. It's not required. And therefore, if you're going to do that, be consistent and note that you are going outside of your standards of practice on some of the things that you do. I just encourage you to be familiar with your standards of practice. Make sure that they are in line with your agreements so that everything is clear on that. Okay, key terms that you're going to want to pay attention to as you're doing your inspections. Are things accessible? If they are not, that's okay. You just document, okay? Accessible means that you can approach them safely without difficulty, fear, or danger. And then operate is also another term you're going to want to be familiar with. To cause systems to function or turn on with normal operating controls, not to be confused with activate. To turn on supply power or enable systems, equipment, or devices to become active by normal operating controls. Examples would include turning on the gas or water supply valves to the fixtures and appliances and activating electrical breakers or fuses. We will turn on the water. That's okay. We will not turn on the breakers. That is not something we do. So just make sure you're familiar with what the terms are and stay in your lane. Okay. As you're approaching the property, it's really good to pay attention to what's going on in the neighborhood. In our area, we have a lot of radon, so I'm watching for other houses that might have systems installed. So I know it's important to encourage that for my client to have done. Avoid parking in the driveway. You don't want to be dripping oils or whatnots. Also, it's just respectful to leave that for the future homeowner or realtor, that kind of thing. Okay. When you approach the property, make sure you're announcing yourself. Go straight to the door, knock on the door, say who you are with your company and what you're there for before you start looking for a lockbox code and walk around and looking for keys and getting in. Okay. Announce your presence. It just shows a good professional approach. Lets people know you're there. If there are anybody there, if there is anyone there. And it'll also, we're all being filmed all the time. So Ring cameras can identify who you are when you're approaching. Okay, start with the exterior and the interior based on your comfort level. If it's a cold day, I always start with the interior and then we'll go outside. If it's snowed, I might start inside and then in the afternoon go outside when it's all melted. Here in Colorado, it only takes a few hours sometimes. Just going to depend. Just be, decisional on that one. Okay, we'll start with the roof inspection. The inspector shall inspect from the ground level or the eaves, the roof covering materials, the gutters, downspouts, vents, flashing, skylights, chimney, and other roof penetrations, and the general structure of the roof from the readily accessible panels, doors, and stairs. The inspector shall describe the type of roof covering materials. So as I'm approaching this home, I'm making a few assessments already. The driveway needs some work. I can see there used to be a garage there that's been remodeled. I'm going to note in my report that some upgrades have been made, and I'm going to recommend that my client would refer to any documents that have been filed, such as permits, and make sure they've been signed and that kind of thing. So that is my initial walk-up. I always get a good picture of the house before I go any farther. I can also see that there are solar panels here in our standards of practice. We're not required to inspect solar panels, though I will be looking on the roof for any penetrations that might be happening where they've been secured and that kind of thing. So there's things we'll still look at. We just make sure we tell our clients that we, again, refer to the homeowners for any transfers of ownership on those or any of other kind of warranties or that kind of thing on those types of systems that we don't inspect. We're noticing here the chimney. I'm looking around. I see there's a shed, and typically outbuildings are not included in an inspection as well. But I will be taking pictures, and I get to include them in my report if I so choose. It's just a good idea to do so. We see the gutters are full here, and there's branches. These things will document. Again, I'm going to look at the solar panels, and just note that they seem to be secure. In my mind, I'll note that, not on the report. On the report, I'm just going to say they need to inquire with the homeowner on these, unless there was a problem. Now, see, then I will document that. Okay, I didn't see any bird nests or that kind of thing. Remember when you're walking on the roof to always back away when you go towards the edge. If you feel comfortable going up close so you can get pictures of the filled gutters, just make sure you're backing back up before you turn around and walk away. Okay, good safety tip there. We're looking at where the solar panels were attached to the rooftop. Here we could look at the skylight, make sure the flashing looks good. We're documenting on this roof, according to our standards of practice, we're going to describe that the roof is asphalt with rolled roofing on the addition in the back. Again, we're noticing more tree branches. These are things we're going to put in our report that need to be addressed. Looking at the chimney, we can see the flashing is getting worn, and especially the sealant. And around here, sealant cracks much sooner than it would normally, just because of our environment. So it's almost a given to always have that. It's good to have a faraway picture and then also a close-up picture. The other way it goes, if you take a close-up, better take a faraway too, so we know what we're talking about here. It's just helpful. And one more picture is not going to hurt anything. A little bit about ladder safety. Okay. We got our spokesperson for Empowered over there. She was helping me fix the swamp cooler for the neighbor. But 4-to-1 rule. Okay. For every 4 feet up, your ladder needs to be 4 feet out on the bottom on the ground. Okay. And then 3-point contact. If you do have to carry something, be very cautious. Try to strap it on you or something like that. You should always have at least 2 feet and one hand, if not both, on the ladder. 3 feet above the roof surface is required or requested for safety. I just kind of go 3 rungs above the gutter. And then also please clamp your ladders, even on a good clean day, dry day, not windy, whatever. Always clamp your ladders. Just a safety thing. Okay. Then we'll go to the exterior. All right. The inspector shall describe the type of exterior wall covering materials. The inspector shall report as in need of correction any improper spacing between intermediate balusters, spindles, and rails. Well, this property didn't have any staircases, stairways, or any of that kind of thing. So I don't have anything to report on that. Instead, we're looking at the siding. I'm documenting that it is a brick siding. I can also tell there's a crawl space because if you look at the picture down on the right, there's a vent. So that's cueing me in. There's a crawl space I'm going to have to get into soon. Looking here at the siding, realizing there's bushes touching the siding. We don't want any vegetation touching the siding. I don't care what it is. And so we always document that as a concern. All right. And here's a closer look. You can kind of see where the mortar has been cracking. So there's evidence of movement. This isn't terribly bad. It's common, especially in Colorado. And I will recommend that this gets repaired. Okay. Also, there's dry kindling as we say it, but this will need to be cleared away. It's a fire concern to have this kind of debris up next to the siding. Okay. Then we're moving on to the basement foundation crawl space structures. Okay, the inspector shall describe the type of foundation and the location of the access to the underfloor crawl space. The inspector shall report as in need of correction, observed indications of wood in contact with or near soil, observed indications of active water penetration, observed indications of possible foundation movement such as sheetrock cracks, brick cracks, out of square door frames, and unlevel floors, and any observed cutting, notches, and boring of framing members that may, in the inspector's opinion, present a structural or safety concern. I'm documenting on this property, it is a crawl space. So we go in the crawl space and right away we can see there's this condition called efflorescence. It's French for flowering. And what it really is just too much moisture has seeped in, and as it's coming out, it's pulling with it the chemicals and salts in the concrete. This is an indication of too much water around the foundation. And is it terrible? Not necessarily, but if it gets too much of it, it's a sign that there's too much water. So that becomes a concern. We notice too, then we go on the outside, these things always make me look then. If it looks like this on the inside, it's going to show me some signs of water intrusion on the outside. And sure enough, if you look really close, you'll see the crack over there next to the gutter. I'd imagine this, the downspout rather, I'd imagine this downspout wasn't permanently connected for a long time, and it allowed water to run right next to the foundation, and it'll pool and create this nice little bathtub up next to the foundation. And so eventually that water will work its way in, cause cracks, and that kind of is what's happening here. It can be fixed, not crucial. I don't think it's a structural concern at this point, though we'll see in the future there is some other signs going on in the home with moisture intrusion. But for now, we're going to go to heating. The inspector shall describe the location of the thermostat for the heating system, the energy source, the heating method. The inspector shall report as in need of correction any heat system that did not operate, and if the heat system was deemed inaccessible. Okay. This particular home, the furnace was in the crawl space. Go me. Woo. So we can see that there's been a leak of condensation, whether it's not properly venting or if it's been collected because it's not properly insulated. It's going to need to be looked at by an HVAC professional. So I don't have to decide what or why. I just know it doesn't look right. It's not supposed to be there. I'll document my observations and recommend an HVAC contractor. Okay. I like to take a picture of the filter and how you access